So which gospel between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John best fulfills its intended purpose? Well, for the sake of this assignment, I'm going to include Luke and Acts together as they were written as one book, and I'm going to select Luke Acts as what I believe best fulfills its intended purpose. Now, if we look at what is its intended purpose, well, Luke wrote Luke Acts as primarily a historical, a functional document describing, the life of Jesus and the life of the apostles and the Acts of the apostles onward. Now, why do I believe that Luke is best? Well, its intended purpose obviously is a historical document, and that's what it is. It not only does a great job of documenting exactly what happened in history, it was very well written. Luke, as we know, was a doctor. He was very well educated. We don't know necessarily much about him as a person other than that. We know that he probably traveled around with Paul at some point and the missionaries, not missionaries, I should say Acts, on their missionary journeys. So that's a little bit about what we know about him. So in terms of truth and accuracy, well, considering it's a historical document, it does a fairly good job of giving exactly what happened in history. Effects and response. So while its intended purpose wasn't necessarily to elicit effects and response, I don't believe, Luke Acts is probably the most influential book of the Bible in terms of it gives us the recipe, it gives us the outline of salvation. John does as well, but Luke Acts in particular, gives us exactly what happened, especially on the day of Pentecost, especially Acts 2:38. And so we can learn from those. Also, the last chapter of Luke 24, I believe, when it talks about tarry in the city until you be endued with power from on high. Also talks about the promise of the Father, which is fulfilled in Acts 2. Of course, there's a break if you're reading the Bible in order in terms of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then Acts. But as a functional book, Luke Acts flows right from chapter 24 of Luke straight into chapters 1 and 2 of Acts, where it talks about the day of Pentecost. And so in terms of response, you could say that our whole church organization is a response to the writings of Luke in Luke Acts, as we base a lot of our fundamental doctrine and organization based on it. In terms of artistic and aesthetic, well, as I previously mentioned, Luke was a doctor, and so the writing is very elegant. It's probably some of the more elegant writings in terms of the Gospels, in best articulating and transmitting, as they like to say, the history of exactly what happened. In terms of ethical, moral, standards, there's not much necessarily to, I guess, judge based on the rhetoric itself, although it does give us ethical and moral standards that we should follow. And that kind of ties back into the effects and response that it elicits from us.